just to give them a scare. Our girl says she heard them talking about some scary villages and decided to play along for fun. She asked if he finally finished his training and he says yes and will stay by the walls for a while. She says that's perfect because she found some clues about a certain Shanshan. She was planning to go to the city, so it's good he's staying to take care of Jimin and her uncle. Before he can say anything, she tells him to go enjoy it because someone really missed him and was wondering when he'd come back. Immediately, Jimin runs off, saying she wants to return to her room because it's late and she wants to rest. However, she stops in front of the door. She calls for our boy, who gets a bit confused, but she turns around smiling, saying she's happy he returned safely. For Zhangping, this was the first time he felt at home since all of this began. She even jumps, startled, when the old man asks why he has that silly grin, and tells our boy to tell Miss Rose that the old man is extremely ill and that she should stop leaving the city. Our boy asks if it's true, and the old man smacks him on the head, telling him just to follow the plan. Zhangping asks why, and the old man explains that Shanshan has been missing for a long time, so something cruel may have happened. He knows how strong his daughter is, but with her taking such risks, eventually, she'll encounter something bad too. That's why he's playing dumb to stop her from taking so many risks. Our boy feels a little awkward with the old man's plans. The old man tells him just to follow the script. That girl is extremely loyal, and if she knows he's a bit sicker, she'll stop risking so much. He warns that our boy has a real talent for forging. His daughter is good, but she never put in much effort and never wanted to. So this next week, it'll be him who really teaches our boy the essence of forging. Even though it's not a super secret technique, it's a unique skill of the Liu family, so he better pay attention. Excited Zhangping says he won't disappoint, when suddenly he hears a voice calling his name, saying it's her. It was the spirit of Jingyeo telling him to keep going because she was waiting for him. Once again, he's confused about why he keeps having these hallucinations. As the old man planned, his daughter stayed more in the city, and Zhangping started learning the techniques. He said he had a lung disease from smoking so much, and his daughter told him to stop smoking. Meanwhile, our boy has also been practicing with Nether to create much more precise forms with energy. Jimin finally mastered the 3 basic styles of the Beast King. And that night, when he heard Su Jingyo's voice, he felt something familiar and, just to be sure, contacted the purging squad. He asked Shibai if he's sure there are no more foxes around the blacksmith district. Shibai assures him that there aren't, as they cleared out the entire district. This made Zhangping want to understand why he occasionally heard her voice. What if Su Jingyo wasn't really dead and was instead waiting for him somewhere out there? Maybe for revenge, for answers, or waiting for him to unmask the one pretending to be her. The scene shifts to 3 days later. A man approaches a door and places a metal bar across it. As soon as it opens, he sees a girl sleeping. He approaches to grab the poor thing, saying the drug he used worked perfectly. He pulls back the blanket, saying the rumors that she had the best curves and jade-colored skin were indeed true. And today, he would finally have his way. However, at that moment, a dark aura approaches and calls out the name Xiaofan. The man turns around, wanting to know who's there. The eerie voice starts talking, saying he's so ugly that only his mother could love him and that he's only fit to be buried 5 palms deep. He's always been hated by all women, which is why he's seeking revenge on them. And today, this shadow was there to take the soul he never deserved. At that moment, the man runs, knowing that his whole family should be unconscious because of what he did. So what kind of cursed ghost was following him? Until he's struck in the knee by a whip. He falls to the ground like a fool, and Zhangping's reservoir of fear begins to fill. The man starts crying, begging him to stay away. In that instant, the man wets himself and faints, and our boy wishes he had stayed awake a bit longer so he could draw more fear from him. But this marked the success of the first mission he took on. It was time to bring this man back to headquarters and let them deal with him. This man's skill was pharmaceutical mastery, which allowed him to create extremely potent drugs. In that moment, our boy has flashbacks of the things this man had done. What he was up to was obviously horrific. Using the drugs he created, he harmed numerous women. Seeing this left our boy shaken, and suddenly, the man started waking up on the ground. He turned to launch an attack, but it seemed to hit an aura. Zhangping turns into smoke, and the man wonders where that bastard went. However, our boy simply says, "Today you die." The man wonders why the poison he threw wasn't working. In the next second, he sees a small hand flying toward him, and Zhangping says that for every person he hurt, he'll take a blow. In a Saw-like style, things were about to begin. The man began taking a flurry of attacks without being able to react. He started agonizing, desperate. Time passed, and the man cried out that Zhangping was insane, saying that he should already be dead and that he wasn't normal. However, our boy replies that with today's technologies, he would still be saved. He points toward a door and says if he can make it to the door, he'll let him leave alive. Xiaofan gets excited, seeing a chance to survive. He's already thinking that when he recovers, he'll get revenge on this boy. There were still plenty of girls he hadn't enjoyed yet. All he had to do was reach that door and he'd survive. But when he stretches out his hand, the door isn't opening. He starts banging on it, demanding to know why it won't open. And our boy approaches, saying it seems he can't even open a door. Even after receiving such a great chance, he messed up. Then bam, Zhangping lashes him on the back with the whip. With that, our boy levels up once more. He'd always thought that killing the foxes would be enough to bring peace to Pearl City. But he realized it wouldn't be that simple. There are people like this man who don't deserve salvation. Then he hears another voice talking about Hanai Academy, saying today would be a special day. It was the perfect chance to capture her. Zhang Ping realizes he's going to have to teach another lesson. He tells the captain that he's already dealt with this scumbag, but found another one on the radar. The one relaying the messages is Manny, who controls the subspaces. Our boy warns Shibag and asks her it's true. She says there might be something strange since she can't feel what's happening over there. He then informs her that Zhang Ping seems to be heading to that location and tells her to report any situation that arises. She tells him to be careful, but reinforcements are on their way. The academy was surrounded by a red barrier. Inside, there were a few hooded figures. They had been searching for their target for 15 minutes, but still hadn't found her. One of them says they're in trouble because someone just breached the barrier. The chubby guy, panicking, says it looks like they've been discovered. However, the leader says it's impossible because they're using the dragon statue. But he warns that they're running out of time, so they need to find her soon. Our boy arrives at the entrance of the building. He starts analyzing the statue, trying to figure out what it is. The system explains that it's a dragon stone. If placed in 4 points, it creates a barrier that nullifies the perception of anyone inside. Our boy starts seeing a flashback of how that item was created. As usual, it involved the sacrifice of numerous lives, which is strange as that kind of item had been banned long ago. These people didn't seem to belong to other organizations, so maybe they were remnants of the Zhu family. The Zhu family in the last 2 months not only brought foxes but also beasts, and now they're targeting something at Hanhai Academy. It's still hard to understand what these guys' real goal is, but perhaps today at the academy, he'll begin to understand things. Then he sees someone approaching and decides to hide. With that, he activates the Nightwalker ability. From the perspective of the group, there was nothing there. The person who had apparently crossed the barrier was already gone. One of them says to turn off the lantern to conserve its energy. Afterward, they collect the dragon stone and leave without leaving any trace. However, our boy was there, observing and relaying the information that these guys were levels 20, 17, and 15. The lantern they were carrying concealed their presence, scent, and even identification details. The girl they were taking was named Chu Jumting, who had an extraordinary potential with a lot of stars. Moreover, she had the blood of a saint, which created a bond with any living creature. Zhang Ping realizes her ability is similar to a gem contract but much more advanced, as it works even without the person having to consume anything. The question remains, what does the Zhu family want with controlling this girl? However, it was obvious that he wasn't going to let these guys take her away like that. But suddenly, they seem to disappear. His analysis is interrupted and he wonders what happened. Amani, on the other hand, tells him that they're heading outside the city. Says he wouldn't make it in time, so our boy says he'll delay them. However, Shibai tells him to be careful and to consider his own safety. But our boy says he won't miss the chance to learn more about the Zhu family. The guys were already running outside the barrier, when one of them seemed to notice something. A strange ether wolf came out in the bushes. The guys wondered why there was a creature like that right at the city's exit. Our boy's precision with form creation had improved a lot, but if he was analyzed, it would be risky. The guy decides to do just that to assess the creature's strength. But our boy notices the attempt to analyze him and interrupts it with an attack. Before the guy can do anything, he's already leaping. He's on the guy's back, ready to bite. The man dodges and tells Huang to hypnotize the creature. Huang spreads his arms and uses a technique telling the wolf to stay still. Zhang Ping's eyes go all zigzagged. He puts on a love-struck expression, and the chubby guy says the ability is ready. However, Zhang Ping has infinite mental energy, so this type of attack is useless against him. He decides to pretend he's under control and slowly approaches with a dumb look on his face. The chubby guy reaches out his hand and tells him not to move. But right at that moment, Zhang Ping swipes. He opens his jaws and is ready to strike at the throat. As the fool is being devoured, he calls for help from the leader. The leader tries to execute a technique, telling him to get out of there, and a golden glow throws Zhang Ping far away. However, our boy managed to level up to 9, and the gem contract rose to level 6. The guy was using overwhelming telekinesis, and even Zhang Ping within the nether aura couldn't resist. With that, the poor guy is crushed. He tries to move, but it's impossible. Then the man says that the wolf's name is Zhang Ping, level 9, and he belongs to the Soul Iron Forge and the Purging Squad. He wonders why a worthless human like that was pretending to be a rat. But since he was one of Shibei's slaves, he wouldn't leave here alive. Although the guy's skills weren't great, the items he had were extremely dangerous. Clearly, the Zhu family had been depending on equipment they've been accumulating for a long time. The good thing for him is that even with restricted movement, he could still use the nether. What he found strange was that the gravity guy, instead of defending himself, was only trying to dodge. And then the guy jumps to the side and fires an electric arrow. Our boy has to use a good amount of nether to create a protective shield. The guy says that this type of ability our boy is using has a limited energy supply, so soon enough, it would run out. Our boy realizes that if the guy isn't trying to dodge, maybe it's time to try the next move. Another shock arrow comes, and he spends 15 nether to defend himself. At the same time, he buries some of his energy into the ground. He spends another 15 to launch a series of attacks. The other guy steps in to protect his friend. But what they haven't noticed is that nether had already seeped out from under their feet. Our boy pulled his shikamaru, controlling both of their arms, and they couldn't use their items. At that moment, he approaches, saying that with their hands bound, they're useless. He pulls out a nether dagger and stabs the guy in the stomach who can't move. However, the guy activates telekinesis on his own arm to hit Zhang Ping's arm. With that, he congratulates Zhang Ping for the attempt but says that this is the end. However, in that moment, our boy releases all the flame he had stored up, and with that, the man has to throw him far away. But as he's sliding back, an electric arrow is already coming. And man, this one hits him in the chest. It looks like his clothes are fireproof, and the guys say he's got quite a few tricks up his sleeve too. It was a shame, but this was where it was going to end. However, Zhang Ping only replies that the time has come. The guy laughs, asking if he's talking about his own death. But as water flows over him, Zhang Ping says he was only buying time. One of them manages to defend and counterattack, but the other is already stabbed in the chest. The problem is that this time, our boy won't come out unscathed. However, at that very moment, Sizzy is already beside the guy, who realizes that this cursed woman killed his friend in one move. She slashes at him, and he defends himself with the tip of his bow. But her level is much higher, and the poor guy has no chance. He asks who she is, but she just ignores him. She keeps attacking the fool, leaving him no chance to escape. He already knows that in a few more seconds, he'll be dead. With no other choice, he had to use it and pulls a ring from his hand. He slips it on his finger, and suddenly it begins to glow with electricity. A lightning bolt starts to fall, and she tells him to stop. A gust of energy and wind rises to the sky. She approaches, at least relieved that Zhang Ping was alive. The man took advantage of the lightning to create distance between the two of them. It was a shame that they couldn't capture anyone from the Zhu family alive. Meanwhile, our boy is on the ground, completely drained. Then Manny tells her to hurry back and bring Zhang Ping. Sizzy asks what happened. She explains that the illusory curtain had been breached. Man, it's the dangerous Lu Xiu. The fool, who I think is that vice president, asks why he was summoned. She questions how the preparations for the beasts outside the city were going. He says that, just as she ordered, everything was in place. It's at that moment that the giant lightning bolt falls in the distance. She wants to know what that sound was. The vice president recognizes it as the myriad call of thunder, which means the guy he sent out ran into trouble. It seems like he's up to something sneaky. He says it was probably just a random thunderbolt, but Lu Yu questions if he really didn't see anything unusual. Trembling, he says no. Everything seemed perfectly calm. She then asks why he seems so nervous. He assures her she can trust him. He's been tracking thunder for a long time and knows each one. She realizes the bastard is lying, and the problem is that outside the wall, she can't sense things clearly. It was exactly like that other time when that guy was about to die. But as soon as she turned the corner, he completely disappeared in an instant. There must be someone of high level using illusion-type techniques in this city. Normally, humans don't affect the foxes, but this one was messing with their perception. Maybe the entire city was under some kind of illusion. Man, she casts a jutsu and activates a domain expansion. The illusory barrier begins to crumble. Stizzy wonders where that girl the men tried to kidnap had gone. Stizzy turns to Zhang Ping and says she doesn't know why, but the barrier was disappearing. Our boy is lying on the ground like a fool, calling out her name. She points to the side and tells her to use that lantern. Meanwhile, Lu Xiu's energy continues to sweep through the city, examining every point, trying to figure out what's happening. Finally, she senses she has found the Dan Rat, a man carrying the thing on his shoulder, whom she had almost forgotten about in all the chaos. Immediately, she jumps toward him, and the man says she better wait. Now he knows there's a problem because he couldn't stall her. Everyone receives the message about one of the purging squad agents named Zhang Ping. He encountered two of their agents, who are now dead. Because of the boy, they had no choice but to use the myriad call of thunder to ensure at least one of them survived. Besides the squad, Zhang Ping is also linked to the Soul Iron Forge. At that moment, one of them asks what Lu Xiu is doing there. And suddenly, someone screams. The man tells Zijin to explain what's going on. However, at that moment, the old man appears and says the plan has failed. Zijin, who provided the information, had been killed by a fox. The problem is that the saint, who poses the greatest threat to the foxes, is now under their control. Lu Xiu knows she can't kill the saint, so she plans to send her back to the Lord's mansion. The man asks what they're going to do now that they won't be able to control the foxes. The old man says he knows of a passage that leads directly to the outer entrance of the mansion. Only he knows about that place, and they can release a bunch of beasts to make the foxes' lives difficult. That way he could take advantage of the chaos and rescue the saint. Another one says it's easier said than done, especially since Princess Lu Kaiyu will be guarding that place. The man says they'll have to use a plan to lure Zhang Ping since she's probably hunting him. If they send an attack on the Soul Iron Forge, Zhang Ping will go to defend it and Lu Kaiyu will show up to kill him. While the purging squad and the foxes are fighting at the forge, they'll take advantage of the situation to cause chaos at the mansion. One of them says this would mean breaking all ties they have with the foxes, so failure isn't an option. Obviously, no one must know they are descendants of the Zhu family. The guy with the black eye warns that the fate of the Zhu family is in Zemin's hands. Stizzy is asking if he's awake and how he's feeling. Our boy gets up, wondering where he is. He explains that he's at the purging squad base because they didn't have time to take him anywhere else. He sees Jimbo lying there and asks if he's really that badly injured. He explains that Jimbo fought Liu Kaiyu, or seems to be on the move. At that moment, someone says he's already standing. It's Suji, who says he fought against 3 people 10 levels above him and still walked away after taking one down. Usually, someone dies instantly if they fight someone 5 levels higher. Sizzy introduces the girl, saying she's the one with the solar recharge, and that she took care of him. Our boy says he was lucky, and it's thanks to them that he made it out alive. The girl replies that it wasn't a big deal, but besides that, she can't maintain the illusory curtain anymore. Enough chit-chat, he needs to explain everything that happened, as they need more information. The girls, it seems, have been working double shifts to try to understand what's going on. They're all asking to be fired for a few days. Manny says the cursed Xiaowei was awake, so it was time for her to help. But clearly, she wasn't that awake. She keeps getting beaten every hour to try and wake her up. At that moment, Shibai enters the room and sees the two fighting like madmen. He says he really needs more staff because they're being forced to work so hard. Then our boy walks into the room. Shibai explains that the Zhu family and the Foxes seem to be working together, but that no longer appears to be the case. And the fact that they use that dragon shows they were already aware of the illusory curtain. He knows that submission isn't the Zhu family's style. This means they're just waiting for the right moment to deal with the Foxes. The headmaster of Rai Academy, known as Shan Howie, died 14 years ago without any heirs. But soon after, a girl named Shen Junting was announced as his granddaughter. She didn't seem to have any connection to Pearl City, so she must be from a village outside. It was likely the Academy's headmaster who wanted to keep her completely hidden. Because of this, they have no records of her, and it's impossible to know what ability she possesses. However, Zhang Ping says he knows the ability because he analyzed her earlier. What she possesses is called the blood of the saint. Shibai wonders if she could be from the ancestral sacred village. However, that would be too much of a coincidence. Meanwhile, our boy explains her ability. At that same moment in the Lord's mansion, Junting excitedly asks if her sister always lives there and why she seems so angry. Clearly furious, she says it's nothing important. Junting tells her to drink some tea because sweet things make you happy when you're mad. However, obviously Lu Xiu isn't in the mood for jokes and tells her to die. A terrible aura passes over the girl, but she opens her eyes and glares with a golden light. Xiu's attack seems to have no effect, and the girl pretends nothing happened. She offers her a cookie, asking if she's not in the mood to eat it. She pops it into her mouth, saying the cookie is really tasty. Meanwhile, Xiu can't understand why she can't kill this girl, who's all smiles, saying it's delicious. Every time Xiu tries to strike, at the very moment she's about to hit, she feels ill and cancels the attack. Junting spits out the tea, saying it's terrible and that the person who made it is a complete idiot, who just so happens to be Xiu herself. The girl leaves, saying she'll prepare a new batch of tea and tells her to wait there. Meanwhile, Lu Xiu wonders why she feels so ill every time she tries to kill the girl. She's a princess of the Celestial Fox clan, so clearly this wasn't her own weakness. There was something about this girl that she had no idea about. Meanwhile, back at the base, Sizzy tells our boy that her water is similar to the nether. The main difference is that she can easily recover and reuse the water. However, once his nether is depleted, it's gone. That's because he still doesn't know how to convert tangible nether into something intangible again. It's like someone who knows how to turn water into a liquid, then a solid, then gas, and back into a liquid again. Our boy thinks the advantage of being intangible is that he doesn't need to walk around with armor all the time. But Sizzy tells him to stop thinking about that and focus on the fight. Take that fool always thinking about Naruto. Now the rascal knows how to use nether to create a barrier that reduces the impact of attacks. She sends a blizzard his way, saying his luck is that it's easy for him to collect more nether since all he has to do is feel fear. And the boy was there, breakdancing on the floor, until he realizes that the ice on the ground had turned into water. He had focused too much on what was coming from above and got distracted, ending up captured. Stissy says the big problem, however, is that if the enemy doesn't fear him, he'll quickly run out of nether. But Zhang Ping says that if an attack is strong enough, that's all he needs. And right then, a dagger flies toward her. She says she wants to find out how strong this so-called attack of his is. She creates a water prison as the energy accumulates, but the dagger easily pierces through the barrier. Our boy says it looks like he won since her barrier couldn't resist that. She dissolves the barrier and says that this nether energy must come from some kind of king-level beast. But she warns him that if it had been a real fight, he wouldn't have stood a chance. Suddenly, her waters begin to bubble and the boy is burned. She tells him he needs to study more and understand the true nature of his ability. She can transform her water into ice, hot water, or even steam, and each of these options has the potential to change the pace of a fight. He asks her what she thinks of the giant spider he made. With the fear she felt, he recovered Sandy and Nether, and she slaps him across the face. But the crazy boy starts drinking the water she threw at him. She is startled and tells him to spit it out because the water she uses is either extremely pure or toxic. Our boy asks for help, saying something strange is happening, and he can't control his body. Suddenly, his shorts fall down, and half of his body has turned into water. An arm starts to emerge from his chest, and he wants to know what's going on. That's when he realizes that he may have awakened a new ability. The Oniferous ability allowed him to consume any substance and have a 10% chance of adopting its composition, along with the pure water body, which granted resistance to any physical attack. Clearly, the level 6 gem was much stronger since it awakened 2 abilities. What he's curious about is exactly how this Oniferous works. Sizzy asks if he's really okay, and he explains that he's beginning to control how he can maintain his form. The water body and the nether body were quite similar, so he just had to use the same knowledge of form transformation. Out of nowhere, the fool turns into a puddle on the ground. He gets up like a stickman, saying it worked, or at least it should have worked. A while later, he was back to normal, and she was blushing. She turns around and tells him, for the love of God, to put some clothes on. He then explains what happened. He says that because he accidentally drank her water, it seems he gained an ability called Pure Water Body. Hearing this, Sizzy is shocked by his growth potential. The ability that's a dream for almost every water magic user was awakened without any effort. She turns to leave, and he asks if she's okay. But at that moment, the alarm goes off. She asks what happened, and they request reinforcements because the Soul Iron Forge is under attack. She orders all units to be sent and says she's going to help. Our boy obviously wants to go, but she tells him to wait because it's a trap. He says not to worry, now he can turn into a puddle of water and slip away. She responds that she doesn't have time to convince him, so he better follow quickly. When they arrive at the forge, there are a bunch of fallen assassins. While our boy runs ahead, Sissy gives orders to find the assassins. Outside, our boy calls for Jimin and everyone. Out of the corner, Rose appears, looking completely wrecked, and calls out to him. He runs and asks if she's okay. She points to the side and says that both Jimin and the old man were hurt. A severed hand lies on the ground. Sissy tells him to take care of her while she checks on the other two. Man, the poor girl lost her arm. Our boy is devastated that this happened to her. She reassures him, saying it's okay, she won't die just because she's missing an arm. At that moment, people start coming out of the forge. Stizzy orders them to take everyone for treatment right away. She tells our boy not to worry. She was unconscious, but she'll be fine. Stizzy thanks him for being alive, but warns him to be careful, as he's made some extremely powerful enemies. He tells her not to worry and just focus on recovering. Stizzy then says that it looks like the forge is no longer safe, so they're going to move everyone outside the city. Our boy recognized the assassins' uniforms and knew it was the damn Zhu family who came to take him down. At that moment, someone comments on an energy fluctuation and asks if the two humans are involved. He recognizes the voice as Lu Xiu's. She sends an attack, saying she won't let any threat escape so easily. Our boy manages to grab Sissy and push her aside. Xiu says he's impressive. It seems he really sensed her attack coming. Sissy replies that she's fine, but finds it strange that she arrived so quickly, given that this operation was a secret. Our boy replies that somehow she must be observing the entire city. That's when Xiu seems to notice something. She asks if he's Zhang Ping. He says it's been a while since they last met and starts trying to analyze her. As his analysis progresses, Xiu says she's going to buy some time for the two of them and sends a blizzard her way. Xiu blocks it and realizes that her true identity has been exposed. She says it looks like they've figured out who's behind everything. She creates a portal to send an attack to Xiu's back, but Xiu raises a shield to defend herself. However, Xiu is completely destroyed by a single attack. She realizes that even with her identity exposed, she can't sense the attacks she creates. If that's the case, she wants to see her dodge this. She sends a flurry of attacks in all directions. Our boy, who can see the fox's attacks, starts relaying the coordinates. She decides to trust him since he's the only one who can see everything. With that, she begins dodging and cutting down each of the claws. Xiu quickly realizes that this is the one responsible. She prepares a claw and sends it in his direction, but he gives himself the order to dodge. As a result, he starts dancing around like a fool, but doesn't get hit by any attack. And Xiu already realizes that this bastard can see through their disguises. She sends another attack toward him and Sissy to make sure both of them die. However, for him it's easy since his body moves naturally, and he keeps giving instructions. She moves close and raises a nether barrier to save the two of them. Our boy comments that Xiu seems quite upset. Did she get rejected or something? Suddenly, she starts screaming and says that he's truly impressive for having escaped all the tests they conducted. But still today, he wouldn't leave alive. He was dodging 3 tails, but what would happen if she sent 3,000? His nether barrier starts to weaken. As the pressure increases, Xiu says it's beautiful to watch him resist like this. The barrier is almost at 0. Finally, it breaks, and our boy wonders how it's possible that he couldn't delay her for even a second, even using everything he had. At that moment, a projection of Shibai warns him to listen carefully, as he would only have one chance. Just as Xiu was about to break the barrier, a golden light descends from the sky, surrounding her with clouds. Shibai informs him that this is the opportunity he's been given. Her attack dissolves against the barrier. He grabs Sissy's hand and runs like hell. Does he think he's going to kill this woman? He doesn't have the power for that. But, of course, she also says she's not going to let him escape so easily. She raises her hands and breaks the barrier that Shibai had created. With that, she begins ordering all the foxes, telling them to locate Zhang Ping and not let him escape. Moments later, they were already at the base of the purging squad. He passes all the information to Sister Rose and tells her to be careful, as it's no longer safe outside. He apologizes for getting them all involved in this. She tells him not to worry, it's just an arm. Besides, she should be the one thanking him for saving everyone's lives. He says she doesn't need to worry. He'll do his best to rebuild the forge. But for now, they'll have to stay hidden outside the city, as it's the only safe place. Meanwhile, Sizzy thinks to herself that our boy has grown so much, and she hadn't even noticed. At that moment, Rose mentions that the white-haired girl was waiting for him. Zhang Ping goes outside and asks what she wants with him. She asks why he called her Sizzy when he normally calls her big sister. Our boy feels embarrassed. He thought it was fine to call her something more familiar after everything they've been through together. But she says it's okay. He can call her whatever he wants, but they need to hurry. His identity had been exposed, and they would have to wait for further orders from the captain. But for all the help he's given to the purging squad, he was about to receive a reward. He asks what this golden blood is. She explains that it belongs to Jimbo. It provides extremely fast recovery and extends the lifespan of all veterans in this place. He's supposed to consume it and try to absorb one of the powers as he usually does with his technique. Additionally, there's a chance it could be passed down to descendants, so maybe the women will take more interest in him. He says he's not sure that's a guarantee, and besides, he doesn't have any women, so there's no reason to think that far ahead. Then he drinks the blood, hoping the oniferous ability activates. He asks if she felt anything, and she says that strangely, it doesn't seem like anything changed. Until suddenly, his hand starts turning red. He analyzes it and sees that the oniferous ability is activated. Now he has the pure blood body, which accelerates the recovery process. He quickly realizes that the oniferous ability gives him an additional chance to gain limited powers. Sissy asks what's happening with his hand. Her glasses are turned off, and he notices she has a huge scar across her face and asks what happened. She says it's nothing serious, but our boy knows she's hiding something. She asks if he feels any other difference, and he says he seems to be aware of most of the creatures around him. It's as if he can blend in with them and heal wounds. She says that maybe with this ability, he can help his friend recover her arm. He says that from what he's sensing, as long as there's enough blood, he could reconstruct a human body with just a piece of skin. A pure water body provided defense, and a pure blood body provided recovery. She tells him to go help his friend right away. But before he leaves, our boy says he'd like to have a conversation with her later as friends, not as allies. Blushing slightly, she says that's fine. Meanwhile, in the forest outside the city, a flock of birds seems to be fleeing. That's because a legion of beasts is approaching. Man, those creatures are incredibly ugly. Back at the base, Manny seems to be keeping an eye on what Shibai is doing. He's reviewing the records from the sacred village. He replies that she might not remember, but they committed several terrifying acts when they were in power. It was at the beginning of everything, when the Zhu family of beast tamers were still considered heroes. They helped people survive that great calamity. At that time, the leader of the family, Zhu Shiyang, partnered with the bird of the sun god. He flapped his wings in the sky every day to bring light and warmth to the people of the city, and he continued doing this for 10 years until he died of exhaustion. After that, he was buried on Sunset Mountain, which is outside Pearl City. Some people who idolized him began to live near the tomb, and that's how the sacred village was formed outside the city. She says she understands, but asks what this has to do with what's happening now. He explains that every 100 years, a saint appears in that village. She has a bloodline that can protect them from any beast attack. Manny now understands and asks if he's saying that Junting might be the saint. Shibai says yes, and the Zhu family's plan was probably to use this girl to control the foxes. She says that makes sense, but it's strange that this saint appeared at the academy out of nowhere. Shibai says that sometimes these things are intentional. With her in the city, they can use the excuse that she's trapped there and launch an attack with the help of the villages. Manny asks why they would do something like that. He explains that 150 years ago, Pearl City was ruled by an extremely corrupt and dangerous woman. To prevent the history with the Zhu family from repeating, the purging squad, with the help of the current lord, took her down. However, it seems she managed to escape and became the leader of the sacred village. Maybe she never gave up on dominating Pearl City and is just waiting for the perfect moment to attack. Meanwhile, the purging squad built several safe houses outside the city. They are extremely well camouflaged so that no one knows where they are. Safe house number 3, for instance, looks exactly like a rock. As they walk through the area, Sizzy hears a strange noise and wonders if it's the Zhu family again. The problem is there are a lot of injured people, and she'll have to leave Zhang Ping to take care of them. The question is whether he can really handle something like that. At that moment, our boy excitedly shouts that it worked. Seeing the lantern, she asks if that's the one that ran out of energy. He says yes, but he thought it would be a waste to throw it away, so he kept trying to recharge it, whether with fire or pure water. He even tried using blood to charge it, until finally he managed to fill it with nether. It's now a nether lantern that hides his scent and prevents others from checking his information. Our boy points out that it now seems stronger than before. It was a lucky break, but it's good because they're now protected. With the safety of the place secured, they could explore the area, including the storm of beasts heading their way. Our boy observes and says that there might be a bit more than he expected. It looks like the Zhu family is already using their beast control. At that moment, Sizzy alerts everyone at the base, saying more than 10,000 beasts are heading toward Pearl City. Zhangping, however, comments that the beasts seem to be running away from something rather than chasing something. That's when he gasps in shock. He points in a direction and tells Sizzy to take a look. She's not thrilled with what she sees either. She warns over the radio that a massive horde of zombies is heading toward the city, and the number is at least 50,000. At that moment, Shibai slams his hand down and wonders how this is possible. How are they supposed to deal with 50,000 zombies, 10,000 beasts, the foxes, and the Zhu family all in the same city? Obviously, they don't have enough people to handle all of this. He wonders if he'll have to intervene directly, but then he has an idea. He calls for the three girls and tells them to prepare to activate the celestial curtain once again. They seem hesitant, but he explains that yesterday, he suppressed the power of the fox leader, so she's not at full strength yet. They're going to have to rely on the help of everyone in the city and send out a warning about the incoming zombies. Once all the awakened individuals are ready, they'll infiltrate the crowd. This way, they can blend in and avoid being attacked by the foxes. He then orders Sizzy and Zhangping to buy the city as much time as possible to prepare. At safe house number 5, the man says those are the captain's orders. Everyone was supposed to head to base number 3 and help them survive. The men are excited, saying it's time for them to shine a little. Meanwhile, the guy from the Zhu family is furious because the plan to take down the forge failed. He sends a message saying that Lu Xiu is not in the Lord's mansion. At that moment, the person on the other end says they've encountered some problems. A giant horde of zombies has appeared outside the city and they don't know who's behind it. He tells them to stop the small talk and come up with a plan or everything will fall apart. He needs to find that saint as soon as possible before they lose their chance. At that moment, he looks back. The city's main squad is passing by and he recognizes the captain as Link Dai. The chubby guy already said that the city's lord wasn't there and asks what the captain is doing there. But the man is completely ignored and the captain heads for the door. At that moment, he begins to open it. The chubby guy is confused by what is happening. There's a serenade going on and everyone is dancing romantically. Jumping tells them to join in and have fun with everyone. Link D takes a sip of the drink. He regains consciousness and wonders how he ended up there. That's when he remembers the plan was to capture someone named Zhang Ping. Jumping says he must be a bit lost, and the man wonders if she's the one who made him appear there. As soon as she gets close, he feels like she's some kind of king of his species. She tells him not to waste anything, and immediately, he kneels, saying he understands the saint. Confused, she asks why he's calling her that since she considers everyone their friend. She tells him to join in and take part in the dance. The chubby guy knows that the saint's power only affects mutated creatures, so maybe this man has been taken by the fox. Considering how all the guards are there, there's not a single real person left in that